Good morning. As you know, I'm glad I'm our commission. I want to thank you for your application serving. I believe we have an application from you for county court here in St. Johns County, as well as our circuit court vacancy, if that's right. Some of our commission saw you not too long ago, but we do have some new commissioners. Could just give us an introduction and tell us about your qualifications for the judicial office.
Certainly. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. It's good to see you all again. It's good to see some of you for the first time in 15 years, and it's good to see some of you for the first time. My name is Zack Miller. I'm an applicant for both judicial spots. I've been practicing law for almost 17 years, and why I think I would be a good judge in either role is the varied experience I've had. I've had 3.5 years of criminal experience, including pretty extensive evidentiary hearing and jury trial experience, but I've also had extensive experience in civil law. Everything from civil litigation to appeals. I've done a little bit of family law. I've handled everything from fiduciary claims, for protection claims, to condo law, construction liens, obviously a lot of transactional work. There aren't too many areas of law that I haven't touched in my that's a very quick summary of a pretty long time serving attorney. Without an answer, please.
So we'll look at your financials. This is going to be a significant pay cut for you. Why do you want to do that?
So that's a question that my wife and I and my family have discussed it. And I would talk about it incessantly. And I would talk about how lucky I am and how great my clients are, how great my family is, how great the opportunities I've had. And too much is given, much is expected. And I always say, you can't talk about things, you can't offer constructive criticism about things unless you're willing to get in and do the work yourself. My wife said, if this is something you really want to do, this is something you feel like you can do well, if this is something you can serve your community, this is something you need to do. You only get one trip around. And money is not the reason I got into being a lawyer. My family's fine with the deduction in pay, and I'm fine.
If you are for that's family division, experience of family loss, you could touch on those two things if you practice.
Certainly. As far as commute, I've got family. I have in-laws. My wife's parents live in Palm Coast. They have graciously, grudgingly offered to allow me to stay with them if I need to overnight. Also, I'm one of those people, if I get in the car for 20 minutes, I don't mind being in the car for 2 hours. I get a lot of phone calls in the car. As far as experience, I have done some family law cases. I've written prenuptial agreements, advised people enforceability of prenuptial agreements. I even litigated one child support case that got pretty ugly. So while it's not been a primary focus of my practice, I have had experience in family law.
Solo practitioner, clearly have a good practice. What's the biggest challenge for you?
It being a one-man band. The hardest thing for me is I am my own scheduler, I am my own bookkeeper, I am my own biller. I have to budget my time very carefully. I have this afternoon blocked out because I have to write a writ of prohibition. That is all afternoon. So if I get a phone call from another client, unless it's a 911 emergency, that's what I have to focus on. And I think that would be an asset on being on the bench and being able to budget time and being able to get orders, other items out very quickly.
You have a judicial philosophy, and so what is it?
It's very interesting. When I was up in Tallahassee last time, I was asked that question, and I'm going to give you the same answer that I gave them, is that most people answer textualism and originalism, and I obviously subscribe to those because purposism doesn't make much sense to me. You got the legislative history. I don't think you derive much from that as far as statutory interpretation. But I don't feel like that's a philosophy. I feel like those are tools used in order to better understand the law, to rule on contract provision. My philosophy is emboldened me by the first county court judge I was in front of, Tyree Boyer. And that is, one, most people who are in a courtroom, that is the worst day of their life. If they're in there for a family law proceeding, they don't want to be there. Their life hangs in the balance. Criminal law, they definitely don't want to be there. Civil, their business hangs in the balance. And as a judge, you need to be very clear and very timely in how you process and deal with everything in front of you, because that might just be one case to you, but that is a livelihood for someone else. The other part, and also tribute to Judge Boyer, is the first time I was in front of him, I said, yeah, here are the standard jury instructions on this trial. And he said, well, where'd you get those from? I said, I got them from another attorney in my office. He says, don't do that. Don't rely on what other people tell you. Check the rule, check the standard jury instruction, check the statute. Even if what was handed to you is correct, you will have a better understanding if you do your own research. Don't just read the head notes. So that's.
Have you checked the Florida Code of Judicial Conduct? Have you read that?
I have.
How many times?
Not daily. Because I'm not a judge. I do know that as a candidate for judge, I think it's Judicial Canon number 7 currently applies to me. I do get a little, this might be more of the answer than you wanted. Canons 2, 3, and 5 seem to be covering the same ground as far as impartiality and upholding the independence of the judiciary, although I think that's number 1. So not every day, but I do read them.
You mentioned originalism and textualism. Can you define those?
Textualism is looking at the plain meaning of the text or using certain rules of statutory construction in order to derive context. I do that a lot in my practice because a lot of my practice involves somewhat Byzantine zoning codes that were pieced together and amended over decades. Originalism is really more analyzing the intent of the original intent of the constitutional provisions, and I think allows for a slightly more expansive view of those.
You apply for both positions. Where do you see yourself as a better fit?
I think I'd be fortunate enough to get either one. On the county court position, because that would be handling civil and criminal, jump in and do that very relatively quickly. Also, I'll note that because of the increased statutory jurisdictional limit, I've been in county court more times in the last 2 years than I think I've been in since I was a misdemeanor prosecutor. On circuit, again, because my experience is very varied, I think I would have the shallowest learning curve of anyone jumping into the judiciary.
For question 44, you listed some pro bono legal work for Lift Jacks and Clara White Mission.
Yes.
You could comment on those for us.
2 items for Clara White, which is more recent. I was contacted. They are a homeless shelter and a work program in downtown Jacksonville. And they have several properties in downtown Jacksonville that they're looking to dispose of. And they needed advice both on the transactional side of it, doing the purchase and sale agreements, helping to market the property, doing letters of intent, things like that. But they're also in the downtown overlay. And that has its own challenges as far as how the code applies to it and the marketability of the property, whether how you can change it, what else you can build there. And then some of the properties are historically doesn't other issues to it. Lift Jacks is mostly transactional work. They're a charitable organization dealing with East Jacksonville. For those aren't familiar, that's kind of the area just north of the stadium and to the east of the stadium. And they've had various leases for $1, $10 for various charitable organizations as they try to rehabilitate without gentrifying that area.
See, you were on the planning zoning agency at some point. Could tell us about that experience for us?
It was a great experience. I wish I had not gotten off as soon as I did. I was actually had to get off it because it meets at almost the exact same time as the City of Jacksonville Planning Commission. PCA I think starts at 1:30. Planning Commission starts at 1 on the same schedule every other Thursday. And I had coverage while I was on PCA, but then I lost that coverage. And the items had got more complicated, so I don't think it was fair to my clients to have someone cover for me. I greatly enjoyed my experience. It made me a better practitioner appearing in front of boards like that, because when you go in front of a board or you make argument in front of a court, you have a tendency to throw out every single possible argument and every single factual scenario that you can. Well, usually those on the board are keying in on 1 or 2 very particular issues. That helped me understand and make a much more efficient argument in my practice.
There was some public comments about your service on that commission or board concerning conflicts. Could you maybe touch on that for us?
Certainly. Before I got assigned to the Planning and Zoning Agency, I got a call from Patrick McCormick, who was the county attorney in St. John's County, asking about the exact same issue. And he asked very specifically, your father works for England, Timms and Miller, which is an engineering firm that provides both planning and engineering services. And people at ETM sometimes appear in front of the PZA or the BCC on zoning ordinance. And he asked, do you think there's a conflict? I said no. And that wasn't just an opinion. That was specifically based on my dad divested all of his stock, all of his interest, all of his equity in ETM in 2012, which was 9 years before I was appointed to the PZA. We also went over chapter 112. I think the subsection is 3143 that defines it's a special benefit, which is defined as an economic interest for someone appearing before you. And there was no economic benefit for my father on anything that I voted on. He didn't derive any benefit from the approval or denial of anything while I was on the board. And one of the things that Mr. McCormick and I researched before I ever took a vote is that wasn't just our opinion. There's actually a Commission of Ethics opinion on this, and I think it's 2011-04. It's a case out of Manatee County. There was a lady who was serving on the Manatee Board of County Commissioners, and her son was a non-equity shareholder in a law firm. And that law firm did the same thing that I do sometimes, appear in front of county commissions, PZAs, planning commissions. And the question was, is that a conflict of interest under 112? They said no, because there's no economic benefit to them. They don't have any stake in the company. They get their salary regardless, just like my father has just gotten his salary at ETM for the last now 13 years. And one little corollary to that, Chapter 286 says, unless you actually have a conflict, you can't recuse yourself from a vote. If you're on a board, you have to vote.
When you're voting or approving or denying things on a PZA, what are you making your rulings or your votes based off of?
It depends on the item. It's quasi-judicial, which means any zoning variances, or in St. Johns County, they call them non-zoning variances, or rezonings, which were just a recommendation. You have to follow the essential requirements of law, which is the code provisions applicable to that particular application. Usually they deal with the consistency of the comprehensive plan, consistency with the area zonings, internal and external impacts, and you have to have competent substantial evidence, either in the form of a staff report or an expert, to justify that decision. We did also do recommendations on land use approvals. Those are legislative. You have much more discretion in that area. Your ability to approve or deny for pretty much whatever reason you want, because it's a policy decision, was in the board's discretion.
Anyone have any questions?
On the social media aspect, obviously, Gerald forwarded to you. Are there any other social media aims or items that you've written under, either direct or indirect?
No, I really appreciate the question, because I've tried to get the word out there. I don't post under fake social media or dummy social media. I know there's some people online. I'm a person named Pete who's posted on a local blog. I will say unequivocally, and I don't know if there's anybody here who can swear me in, I'll gladly do it. I am not Pete. I've never posted under Pete. I don't know who Pete is. I've also never posted under anonymous. The only times I've posted on that blog were to say, I am not Pete. And also, to correct, there was a picture of me and another person where the author said, here's a picture of you and your father looking upset. And I said, that's not my father, that's my client. Please correct it. And he thanked me. But no, I don't really understand social media. I mostly use it to follow friends and family in pictures from their vacations. I don't have a Twitter account. I usually get screenshots from other people, news articles on Twitter. But thank you for the question.
Would you sort of consider Tyree Ware a bit of a mentor for the position that, at least one of the positions you're saying?
I would say at the time that I was in front of him, I didn't feel like he was.
That was sort of the class in Tyree. Do you have any animal heads in your office? That's the other thing.
Oh, I remember going to the Christmas party at his house, and he was gracious enough, and he had the Wolverine that was stuck over the kitchen table. And, oh, Mr. Miller, why don't you sit on that? That's, I shot that. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite heuristic?
He always go, you should wear a bow tie. Girls like her guys' bow ties. Yeah.
so this is your closing argument. Anything you want to highlight or touch on that we didn't discuss?
No, I wish I could give you a full breadth of everything that I touch on. I've probably forgotten some of the areas of law practice. I don't mean to sound trite because I said this last time. I do really appreciate everything that all of you do. If you're here, somebody else is covering for you in your practice. This is a very important decision. People who are, whether it's their bond being set, their custody being determined, their alimony being determined, or whether their business gets to stay open is determined by judges. And who the judges are is determined by you. So I really thank you for your service.
We'll get that.